Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Something that's been on my mind is the safety of free VPNs.
Yeah.
And we've got a great excerpt here from a Medium article. Are free VPNs safe? A deep dive into risks and realities. I think it'll help us get to the bottom of that.
That's like a good one. A lot of people use free
Yeah.
VPNs, but don't always think about the implications.
For sure. I mean, everyone loves free stuff,
Yeah, of
right?
course, who doesn't?
But, and I think you'll agree with me here, nothing's really free.
Right. That's especially true in the digital world.
So then, when it comes to free VPNs, what are we really paying?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Well, running a VPN service is expensive. Servers, security, development, it all adds up. So if a company isn't charging users directly...
We gotta make money somehow.
Exactly. And that's where things get a little dicey. This article actually highlights that some free VPNs, they collect and sell user data to third parties.
Oh.
And we're not just talking about your name and email. They could be collecting your browsing history, location data, even your search queries.
That's pretty invasive.
It is. And that data is incredibly valuable to advertisers and data brokers.
Hold on. So the tool that's supposed to protect your privacy is selling the information you're trying to protect.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of ironic, isn't it?
That's more than ironic. It's like a complete violation of trust.
It is. It's like you're in a private room, but there are hidden cameras recording everything you do.
Definitely not the kind of privacy I'm looking for.
Nope, not at all.
And even if they aren't selling your data, the article mentions that a lot of free VPNs still collect it for targeted advertising. So you might not be paying with money, but you're still paying with your data.
You are. It's a subtle but important distinction. You're basically the product.
Yeah, I get that. Makes you wonder, can you really trust a company that profits from your data to have your best interests at heart?
That's a good point. It's definitely something to think about.
For sure. And the article doesn't stop there. It also
Oh.
gets into the security threats associated with free VPNs.
Right.
Honestly, this part kind of freaked me out.
Yeah, it's concerning. There's been research showing that a lot of free VPNs have malware or adware.
Wait, so instead of protecting your device, you could be opening it up to malicious software.
It's possible. It's like hiring a security guard who might actually be robbing you blind.
Oof. Okay, now I'm really worried. What are the implications of that? Like, what could this malware actually do?
Well, it depends on the type of malware, but it could steal your passwords and bank info, mess up your device, even lead to identity theft. It's a real risk.
That's a nightmare. And on top of that, the article mentions something called browser hijacking.
Yeah, have you ever been trying to visit a website and you suddenly get redirected to some weird or shady page?
Oh, yeah. Actually, that happens to me all the time.
That could be browser hijacking, and some free VPNs have been linked to it.
So they could be manipulating your online experience, putting you at even greater risk. Wow, free VPNs are sounding less like a bargain and more like a potential disaster.
It's a trade-off. You get what you pay for, or in this case, what you don't pay for.
Yeah, I'm starting to see that. And it's not even just the privacy and security stuff. The article also mentions performance and usability issues.
Right, those are important too. People often complain about slow internet speeds with free VPNs.
Oh, yeah. How come?
Well, they usually have limited servers and bandwidth, so streaming, video, gaming, even just browsing can be a pain.
Ah, I see. It's like trying to watch a movie, but it keeps buffering every few seconds.
Exactly. And on top of that, they might limit how much data you can use or which servers you can connect to.
So you might not be able to access all the content you want.
Yeah, it can be frustrating.
So not only are there potential privacy and security risks, but there are also performance limitations and restrictions.
Yep, you're starting to see the whole picture.
Yeah. Okay, so we've painted a pretty bleak picture of free VPNs. But before we write them off completely, is there any chance of finding a good one that's actually safe and reliable?
It's not impossible, but it's tough. There are some free VPNs that value privacy and security, but you really have to do your homework.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's talk about that. How do we evaluate a free VPN? What should we be looking for to make sure it's trustworthy? What are the red flags?
Okay, well, the article gives some great advice on that. The first thing you should do is take a close look at their privacy policy.
Okay, their privacy policy. What should we be looking for in there?
Well, it should clearly explain what data they collect, how they use it, and whether they have a no logs policy. That's really important.
You keep mentioning this no logs policy. Can you explain what that means? Why is it so important?
A no logs policy means the VPN provider doesn't keep records of your online activity.
Yep.
No browsing history, no downloads, no IP address. If they don't log it, they can't share it, even if the government asks. It's a big deal for your privacy.
So it's like a digital shredder for your online activity.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. It's an added layer of protection.
That makes a lot of sense. What else should we pay attention to in the privacy policy?
Look for clear and simple language. If it's full of jargon and vague statements, that's a red flag. You want to know exactly what they're doing with your data.
Transparency is key. After all, it is our data. We have the right to know how it's being used.
Absolutely.
You mentioned independent security audits earlier. Can you elaborate on that? Why are those so important when evaluating a VPN?
Independent audits are like a seal of approval from a trusted third party. They're done by cybersecurity firms that really know their stuff.
Gotcha.
They look at the VPN's infrastructure, security protocols, and data handling practices. It's like a really thorough inspection to make sure they're living up to their promises.
So it's not just taking the VPN provider's word for it. It's getting an objective assessment from an expert.
Precisely. Independent audits help you separate the truly secure VPNs from the ones that are just talking a good game.
Got it. So that's privacy policies and independent audits. What about user reviews and ratings?
Those are valuable too. Think of it like checking reviews before you buy something online.
Makes sense.
You can see how the VPN performs in the real world, how fast it is, whether it can bypass geo restrictions, and how good their customer support is.
It's like getting a sneak peek into what it's actually like to use the VPN.
Exactly. Look for reviews on trusted platforms and forums, and remember to read both the good and the bad ones. The negative reviews can often reveal important red flags.
That's a great point. Sometimes the critical feedback is the most helpful. Okay, so we've talked about privacy policies, independent audits, and user reviews. The article also mentions considering the VPN's ownership and jurisdiction. Why does that matter?
The company behind the VPN and where they're based can have a big impact on your privacy. Ideally, you want a VPN that's headquartered in a country with strong data protection laws.
So it's not just about the technology, it's also about the legal framework surrounding it.
Precisely. Some countries have better track records than others when it comes to privacy.
Okay, this is all incredibly helpful. We've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about the potential dangers of free VPNs, the things to look for when choosing one, and even touched on the benefits of paid VPNs. Before we wrap things up, I'd love to hear your final thoughts. What's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important thing to remember is that when it comes to your online security and privacy, free isn't always the best option. Free VPNs can be tempting, but there are often hidden costs involved.
You're saying it's worth considering investing in a reputable paid VPN service for a better and more secure experience.
Exactly. Think of it this way. You wouldn't skimp on security for your home, right?
True.
Well, your digital life deserves the same level of protection. A paid VPN is an investment in your online safety, just like a good antivirus or password manager.
That's a great analogy. And it really drives home the point that our online lives are just as important as our physical lives.
Exactly. And your online activity reveals a lot about you, your browsing history, your purchases, your communications. Protecting that information is crucial in today's world.
I couldn't agree more. Now, we focused a lot on the risks, but are there any situations where a free VPN might actually be a good choice?
That's a good question, and it's important to remember that not all free VPNs are created equal. There might be some cases where a free VPN could work. For instance, if you only need it occasionally for low-risk tasks, like using public Wi-Fi or bypassing geo-restrictions on a specific website, a reputable free VPN with a strong no-logs policy and decent security might be okay.
So it comes down to your individual needs and the level of risk involved.
Exactly. But if you're dealing with sensitive information, doing online banking, or just want the best protection possible, investing in a paid VPN is usually the smarter choice.
It's about weighing the pros and cons and making an informed decision.
Exactly. And the more you know about the digital landscape, the better equipped you'll be to navigate it safely.
Well said. This has been a really eye-opening discussion about free VPNs. We've covered the appeal, the potential downsides, what to look for, and even the advantages of paid alternatives. I think the most important thing we've highlighted is the need to be proactive and make informed choices about our online security.
I agree. And remember, there are resources out there to help you make those choices. Don't hesitate to consult experts or reputable websites.
Great advice. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe online.
Absolutely.
So we're talking about the allure of free when it comes to VPNs.
Right. I mean, who doesn't love a good deal?
Exactly. But as we've seen, it's not always as straightforward as it seems. especially when it comes to our privacy.
Yeah, you really got to be careful. There are a lot of potential pitfalls out there.
Absolutely. So let's dive back into the article and talk more about the hidden costs of those free VPNs. It mentions a lot about data collection practices.
Right, and that's a major concern with free VPNs, because
Yeah.
if they're not making money from subscriptions, they have to find other ways to generate revenue.
And often that means collecting and selling user data.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's not always clear what data they're collecting or who they're selling it to.
That's a scary thought. It's like you're trying to protect your privacy, but the very tool you're using could be undermining your efforts.
It is a bit ironic, isn't it?
It's more than ironic, it's alarming.
I agree. You have to be really careful and do your research before you trust a free VPN with your data.
Absolutely. So what can we do to protect ourselves? How can we make sure we're not inadvertently giving away our personal information?
Well, one of the most important things is to carefully read the VPN's privacy policy.
Privacy policy.
Yeah, it should outline what information they collect, how they use it, and whether they have a no logs policy.
A no logs policy. What that?
Basically, it means the VPN provider doesn't keep records of your online activity, so they can't share or sell information they don't have.
That's a good thing, right?
It's a great thing. It's one of the most important features to look for in a VPN, free or paid.
Gotcha. So no logs means no data to sell or share. Makes sense.
Exactly.
So we need to scrutinize those privacy policies, look for a clear no logs policy. What else should we be paying attention to?
Well, transparency is key. The privacy policies should be written in plain language, easy to understand. If it's full of jargon or vague statements, that's a red flag.
Yeah, I hate when those legal documents are impossible to decipher.
Me too.
Yeah.
You want to be able to clearly see what they're doing with your data.
Makes sense. So no logs policy, clear and transparent privacy policy. What else should we consider?
You know, we talked about independent security audits earlier. Those are super important.
Right, those audits, they're like a third-party evaluation, right?
Exactly. Independent cybersecurity firms will thoroughly examine the VPN's infrastructure, security protocols, and data handling practices. They'll put it through rigorous testing to make sure it's actually as secure as they claim.
So it's not just trusting the VPN provider's word for it.
Nope. It's getting an objective assessment from experts.
Got it. Independent audits are crucial. They give us that extra layer of assurance.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got privacy policies, independent audits. What about those user reviews and ratings? Are those helpful?
Oh, absolutely. User reviews can give you valuable insights into real-world performance and reliability. It's like checking reviews before you buy anything else online.
Yeah, I do that all the time. Helps to get a sense of what other people's experiences have been like.
Exactly. With VPN reviews, you can learn about things like connection speeds, how effective they are at bypassing geo-restrictions, and the quality of their customer support.
So you can get a feel for the VPN's strengths and weaknesses before you even try it.
Exactly. Just remember to read reviews from a variety of sources. Don't just focus on the glowing reviews, because the negative ones can be just as informative.
Right, they can highlight potential red flags.
Precisely.
So we've got privacy policies, independent audits, user reviews, anything else we need to consider.
One more thing. The article mentions considering the VPN's ownership and jurisdiction.
Okay, ownership and jurisdiction. Why does that matter?
Well, the company behind the VPN and where they're based can have a big impact on your privacy. Ideally, you want to choose a VPN that's headquartered in a country with strong data protection laws.
So it's not just about the technology itself, but also about the legal and regulatory environment.
Exactly. Some countries are more privacy conscious than others.
Makes sense. Okay, this is all super helpful. We've covered a lot of important points today, from the potential dangers of free VPNs to the things we should look for when choosing one. We've even touched on the benefits of paid VPNs. Before we wrap things up, is there anything else you want to emphasize?
I think the key takeaway here is to be an informed consumer. Don't just jump into using a free VPN without doing your research. Carefully consider your needs and the level of risk you're comfortable with.
Yeah, and remember, there are resources available to help you make the right choice. Don't hesitate to consult with experts or check out reputable websites for more information.
Absolutely. The more you know, the better decisions you can make about your online privacy and security.
Well said. This has been a really insightful deep dive into the world of free VPNs. Thanks for sharing your expertise.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
It's funny, isn't it, how we think about value online.
Yeah.
We're so used to free services and apps that we forget that someone always has to pay for it.
Right, exactly. There's no such thing as a free lunch.
Yeah, and that's definitely true with VPNs like we've been talking about.
Oh, sure.
It's tempting to go for the free option, but as we've seen, there could be some serious trade-offs, especially with privacy.
Absolutely.
Like with a free VPN, you're essentially saying, okay, I'll give up some of my privacy and security in exchange for not paying a subscription fee.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And those trade-offs, well, they can come back to bite you.
Oh, they definitely can. It's kind of like, you know that saying, you get what you pay for?
Right.
But maybe in this case, it's more like you get what you don't pay for.
Ooh, I like that. It really highlights the potential risks.
Yeah, exactly. And it brings up a really important question. What is our privacy worth to us?
That's a big one.
Like, what are we willing to pay for that peace of mind, knowing that our online activity is protected?
It's a question everyone needs to ask themselves. It's easy to take our privacy for granted until it's gone.
Yeah, until it's too late.
Right, and then, well, the consequences can be pretty serious.
For sure. It's kind of like leaving your front door unlocked. You might get away with it for a while, but eventually someone might take advantage.
Definitely. And it's the same with our online lives. We can't be complacent.
Well,
We can't just assume that free means safe or effective.
yeah, we've got to be proactive about our online security.
Absolutely. We need to be informed, do our research, read those privacy policies really carefully,
Right. Know what we're getting into.
and be willing to invest in our digital well-being.
It's all about taking control, making choices that align with our values, and protecting what's important to us.
Right?
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive into the world of free VPNs.
Yeah, it has.
We've explored so much: the appeal of free, the potential risks, how to evaluate them, and the benefits of those paid alternatives.
Right.
And I think most importantly, we've emphasized the need to be aware, to be informed, and to make conscious choices about our online security.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks so much for joining us on this journey of discovery.
It's been a pleasure.
We encourage everyone to keep learning, keep researching, and choose the VPN solution that fits their needs and priorities best.
Absolutely. And remember, there are resources out there to help you. Don't be afraid to reach out to experts or consult reliable websites.
Great advice. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe online.
Stay safe.